What's going on? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So today I want to talk to you about Lucid. I want to go over some of the current data points, break it down on what big money's been doing today, and over and above that, possibly Lucid's newest partnership. So I'm going to go over all that, but first make sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. And with that said, let's get right to it. So Lucid went up 2.17%, so it definitely held its gains and was able to piggyback off of the broader market's optimism, and that was brought on by kind of good data from PCE. So overall, now the market's thinking that there's going to be earlier rate cuts as early as May, possibly. We'll just have to wait and see. But there was a lot of abnormal things that happened today. So today there was 81.18 million shares being traded, 43.4 is the average. And so after hours today, as far as I'm aware, there was nothing really particularly special about Lucid. So there was no news, no SEC filings. But if you look at some of the transactions that did occur after hours, honestly, it looks like something might be coming down the pipeline, whether it be tomorrow or early next week, but big money is getting into Lucid. So there was a ton of transactions, so 2 million, 1.47 million, as you can kind of tell based on the time, it was all done after hours. But there was one that kind of leads me to believe that maybe the PIF or some other large entity got into Lucid. So if we scroll down past the many millions of dollars of transactions, there is one right down here. First thing, still keep going, which is right here. So $116.9 million transaction. So 35 million shares in one transaction, as you can kind of see right here. So overall, some entity wanted to massively get into Lucid. Based on the dollar value, I feel like it's either the PIF, BlackRock, or Vanguard. But logically, I don't really think it's BlackRock or Vanguard at this stage. So logically, it would be the PIF, but that's just speculation. Who do you think bought in with this large transaction? And plus, aside from that, everything that I've been scrolling through here. So I don't know, that one definitely stood out to me. And aside from that though, I just want to talk on this article. So it came out a couple days back, but it does go Silicon Valley EV startup plans $10 million engineering center, 260 jobs in Southfield. So 260 jobs for engineers and Lucid. Why would they be doing this? Especially Detroit of all places. So it made me kind of think, who's in Detroit? Obviously a lot of the big OEMs. And when did Lucid talk on the OEMs? Not necessarily this past earnings, but in the Q3. So these are the transcripts from the Q3 earnings. And I did bring this up quite frequently, in fact, during when this was said, but it does say that we can possibly help some of these OEMs as a partner. And that was 𝗪𝗧𝗪 who did say that. And even aside from that, I believe Peter throughout this earnings did actually signal that they intend on kind of licensing out some of their technology to potentially OEMs. So when it comes down to it, maybe, just maybe, one of the big names, such as even Ford or GM, might be looking at a partnership with Lucid. So even though technically it would be outside of the umbrella of the PIF, still would be massive for Lucid and just EVs in general, because potentially, even though Lucid is lagging on production, maybe they could use Lucid's technology, their knowledge, and somehow be able to incorporate Ford or GM's ability to pump out vehicles on a mass scale, thus economies of scale, reducing pricing. I don't know. Again, this is just speculation at this stage, but logically it does make sense. And when it comes down to Lucid kind of being secretive with a lot of their PR, it always takes a good about 6 months until we actually truly do find out what Lucid's been working on behind the scenes, aka especially the Aston Martin deal. That came out initially February 2023, but was not announced until August or September of 2023. So again, there is a little bit more of a lag essentially about this. So who knows, there might be a partnership announced within the next quarter. We'll just have to wait and see. But if you kind of piece that together with a bigger entity getting in, so 116 million, it would make sense. Maybe if it was in fact Ford or GM, kind of, I don't know. Again, I found this very abnormal, and just the fact that this article is alluding to a OEM, especially based out of Detroit, it does make logical sense that they are planning a partnership sooner rather than later. Aside from all of that fun stuff, looking at what shorts did, so shorts surprisingly returned 951,000 shares, 28.86% of the free float is being shorted, 254.06 million shares overall are being shorted, and cost of borrow average is 58.58%. Looking at options though, $450,000 in calls being purchased and 500,000 in puts. Sentiment wise, 51% of all the options being done today are optimistic and bullish. So even just looking at this information, it is night and day difference from what's been happening over the last little bit. So I don't know what's up with today. I know PCE did come out, broader market based on a lot of the technicals is really pointing to higher highs coming. But in reality, yesterday's video, somewhat bearish, even the day prior, and then there's this, all the data somehow today is just turned bullish. So kind of a weird day. Of the call options that were purchased though, there's a consensus for it to be above 350, and looking at puts, there's a consensus for it to be sub $3. So more of a risk versus reward based on that. But moving on though, looking right here, with it closing at $3.30, it is trading between this pivot and this R1. So 324 is going to be that next strong support, and then 359 is going to be the next strong resistance. So something to kind of watch for going into tomorrow. And technicals, Lucid has been pounding on the door. So they have been trying to transition into the higher percentile of the Bollinger Band, just not really having enough. Today, no different. So once again, normally what has happened in the past when Lucid just keeps on pounding at the door, it eventually does break through, as you can kind of see right here. So that might be once again something that does happen. Right above that door essentially is that 50-day moving average, so a second really strong level of resistance. So going into tomorrow, that's going to be something to watch for, those two resistance points. Aside from that though, you do see the start of a nice deviation today, so white line above the red showing a bullish sentiment, but in all honesty, it is at 20 somewhat, so considered oversold. So if there's a good piece of news that does come out, whether it be on a larger scale or specific to Lucid, you're going to see a rush of value investors coming in. And like I said, based on the volume that's been happening after hours, it is fair to assume that someone knows something. So maybe some piece of news might be coming out, whether it be tomorrow or in the foreseeable futures, but someone's buying. I have no idea why. Looking right here, number of retail investors slowly were getting out today, so you can kind of determine that big money was getting in, especially based on the higher volume and just retail getting out. So all in all, technicals are looking very much primed and ready. Options were looking good. Shorts closing out their positions on a green day is very bullish, and plus just the abnormal buying and maybe a partnership. So you kind of have the trifecta of very positive news. Of course, anything can happen tomorrow, but generally speaking, I'm pretty optimistic about Lucid as of right now. So let me know your thoughts on Lucid. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. One final thing, take advantage of this promo. Simply sign up for an account with Movement, throw $100 at it, and you get 5 free stocks. Each stock is valued up to $2,000. So take advantage of this. Link in the description below and also the comments. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.